A mother and daughter who don't believe in fairy tales, a man claiming to be Santa Claus, the hearing of a lifetime? All this can only mean one thing. We're comparing The Miracle on 34th Street on this episode of Retro versus Remake.
I'm Reggie Parker.
And I'm Dan Bulick. Welcome to another episode of Retro versus Remake. This is the series where we compare movies to their remakes. Join us as we answer the question, should this remake exist? Today's films are The Miracle on 34th Street. Miracle on 34th Street, made in 1947. I believe this is our oldest film we have reviewed. Probably will be for a while.
Nice.
Starring Maureen O'Hara, John Payne, Edmund Gwenn, Gene Lockhart, Porter Hall, and Natalie Wood. Directed by George Seaton. Screenplay by George Seaton. Do want to give a shout out to Valentine Davis for writing the story, though. And music by Cyril Mockridge. Miracle on 34th Street, 1994. Starring Richard Attenborough, Elizabeth Perkins, Dylan McDermott, J.T. Walsh, James Remar, Jane Leaves, Robert Prosky, Josh Ackland, and Mara Wilson. Directed by Les Mayfield. I just wanted to mention some films he did. A 90s classic, Encino Man. Unfortunately, we won't be able to do that on this show, but we will do one of his other movies, I'm sure, and that's Flubber. I'm sure we'll be comparing that to The Absent-Minded Professor one day. Anyways, I don't want to get into that. Screenplay by John Hughes, who returns. We haven't done a John Hughes as a screenplay writer since 101 Dalmatians, so we'll see how this goes. George Seaton also gets a screenwriting credit in this film. And the music by Bruce Broughton. Okay, Reggie, what is your first experience with either film?
I've seen a lot of Christmas movies. I've seen Smurfs Christmas movie, Pac-Man Christmas movie, probably some other
Christmas
things.
Movie?
Oh, it's not great.
I got to see this. I'm the video game guy in this series. How did I miss that?
It was missed intentionally. They don't want you to see it. Yeah, like I used to have like what's it called? Cartoon Network, Boomerang, whatever it was, and they had all the Christmas stuff. This one, both of these films missed me completely. I guess maybe because it wasn't cartoon based, but I have never seen Miracle on 34th Street in any iteration.
I am pretty much in the same boat as you. I've seen so many Christmas movies. Not all those cool cartoon ones that you've seen, but seen my fair share. And yeah, neither of these films I'd ever seen or just even been interested in seeing. Like I knew about them. I think I knew more about the original because it just used to be on like WB back in the day. And I think it was colorized when they showed it on TV, because I was looking for like, where's the colored version? This is the black and white. This isn't the right one. Yeah. So that confused me a little bit. Like the most I was ever exposed to this was an episode of The Simpsons when Homer went to like this all-you-can-eat shrimp shack or something, and then he didn't get all he could eat, so he went to court, and then like, let's show them just how much shrimp he ate. So there were all these people with bags and bags, like, oh my god, is that all the shrimp? And it's like, oh, here they are, a bunch of letters to Santa. Oh, that's The People versus Kris Kringle. That's the next room over. So that's my most exposure to anything on Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah, like thinking about it, I think you're right. I think they did used to colorize that film because I know of it, but like you mentioned, there just wasn't a lot of interest. And we'll see if any of that changed.
We shall see. All right, they are very similar films. Most of the characters are the same. Some of the names are changed. We'll get into that. But first, let's go over a brief synopsis. It's the day of the Thanksgiving Day Parade, and there's a new fella in town in New York City who looks and acts a lot like Santa. Mrs. Walker is in charge of making sure the parade goes well. When her original Santa is too drunk to perform, she hires this new stranger on the spot. The risk pays off as this new Santa is a hit, and everyone loves him. He does so well, this man who calls himself Kris Kringle is hired to be their in-store Santa. At home, Mrs. Walker has a daughter, Susan. Susan often hangs out with the lawyer who lives across the hall. He also has an eye for her mom. Susan was also raised by her mom not to believe in fairy tales, which includes Santa Claus. And the next day, Chris takes up his new Santa post, and surprise, surprise, he is a hit. The kids of all backgrounds love him. He also tells parents other stores they can get better deals for toys. This seems bad for business, but parents love this customer first approach, and Chris gets high praise from top brass. Other stores catch on and get jealous. The lawyer even takes Susan to see Santa, and she starts to think that maybe he is the real deal. Chris finds out what Susan wants for Christmas, and that's a nice house and a family. Chris is a hit as Santa, but not everyone is convinced. A plan is hatched to trick him, and he is eventually committed to Bellevue Hospital. Chris loses his faith in people, and he fails the psych test on purpose. Eventually, his faith is restored, and the lawyer decides to defend Chris in a hearing. The prosecution wants Chris locked up for claiming to be Santa. The lawyer does his best to defend Chris, but things take a dire turn. Just when all hope seems lost, a last-minute solution presents itself, and Chris is free to go. Chris celebrates with the lawyer, Mrs. Walker, and Susan. After the celebration, the three drive past a house that looks exactly like the one Susan told Santa about. Susan knows this is a gift from Santa, and her mom and the lawyer decide to be together and get the house. It seems like Kris Kringle was Santa all along. The end. Okay. Very similar films. There's definitely some differences. Most of the names are the same, except for the lawyer. I guess we'll get into that when we bring him up. I just wanted to talk about like trials versus hearings, because like this whole thing about like the trial, but it's not really a trial, it's supposed to be a hearing in this movie. So I looked up like what's the difference between a trial and a hearing. Like I asked my wife, like, what's the difference? Well, you go to a hearing to see if it goes to trial, and then like I didn't see that in my definition. And then like sometimes there are witnesses in hearings and sometimes there aren't, and
Right.
you don't necessarily need a jury in a trial, so it could be like a hearing. So I don't know what the hell the difference is between a hearing and a trial, really.
Yeah, the distinction is lost on me too. Like I know in recent memory, and it's not very in the Christmas spirit. There's been different hearings and things like that in our country, and they've had mixed reviews. But yeah, I mean the one I'm thinking of had a grand jury, but like there was no, I don't know. It's just like a prosecutor presenting a case and then all that stuff. I don't even know if there was a defendant. But whatever,
Yeah.
that's a lot of thinking for this Christmas
I
movie.
know. So if anybody out there, just throwing it out there, if anybody out
Yeah,
there who listens to this is into law or does law, help us out. What's the difference between a hearing and a trial that's like easy to follow? Because what I
yeah,
Googled did not help me at all. Anyways, this is a Santa movie. So, and because they are very similar, I think we should just compare our characters first. And who else should we start with than our main character, Kris Kringle, the man himself, Santa Claus. In our original film, it is Edmund Gwen.
What's your name?
Kris Kringle, I'll bet you're in the first grade.
Second. I mean your real name.
That is my real name.
In the remake, it's Richard Attenborough.
He thinks you're Santa Claus. I am.
So where do you want to start with this Santa comparison?
a good place to start is the intro. Though they are almost exact same sort of introduction to Santa, it's not because the remake, and this happens sometimes in a remake, adds a bit of an extra sort of flair to it. When we first meet Edwin Gwynn, it's basically like he's just kind of going about his business. He really hasn't interacted with anyone else, but he's like, oh, look at this parade, look at me having fun, and this guy that's playing Santa, they have their interaction. But in the remake, and I didn't catch this until later in the film because I wasn't paying that much attention. He talks to the judge that we see later in the film as like the first thing in the movie, which I thought was interesting. We'll get into why that works or doesn't work, I think. But someone immediately sees him and says, "Hey, you look like Santa." And like, all right, I can I say this? Like, I didn't see it. Like that original guy gave me big time Santa vibes, and I was like, man, look at this guy running around looking like Santa. And then like we were talking a little bit off camera, like Richard Attenborough looks like the guy from Jurassic Park. I mean, he definitely does look like a Santa, and I could see him being a Santa, but like this kid to be like, come on, ask him, ask him. I'm like, ask him what? Like what time it is? Like, I I don't know. It just the more organic kind of intro of this sort of jolly guy in the original that at this point hasn't really interacted with another party. Like having Attenborough have a conversation with the judge and the kid, and being like, that is a silly thing for a kid to think, is not at all like the character in the original, which is just like there is no time where he's not playing Santa, right? Like he's Santa from the beginning of the film all the way through. And it seems like Attenborough has a little bit more self awareness with people. Not a major plot point, but I did want to make that distinction.
I'm gonna start with the beards.
Okay.
I'm gonna start with the cosmetic part. Yeah, I think that Edmund Gwen got a solid Santa beard, man. That
Yes,
shit's
sir.
it's pretty long. He gets the test later in the film from Susan when she pulls it. I was like, okay, that makes sense. Attenborough, a little skimpy on that beard. I wasn't sure that she'd be able to even grab any of those whiskers. It looks pretty small. So to your point, like for that kid to like, yeah, that guy kind of looks like Santa, old chubby guy with a white beard. But it's not. When you think Santa, that's a gotta have the beard, man.
Yeah.
That's a very important part of his look, and I noticed that right away. It's just like a little light on the beard. So
Yeah.
I did appreciate the kind of curly mustache thing that Attenborough had, though. So that was nice, but I would have liked a little more beard. I know it's such a tiny point, but I just
And
I noticed it right away.
it's a major point when you have a hearing about is this or is this not Santa. I mean the details, every detail is important, and you're right. From all my experience with Santa, I guess I've seen the short beard Santa variation before, maybe on those like weird aluminum tins with the Christmas cookies in them and stuff like that. But like, no, you're right. My Santa has a healthy, lengthy beard, and Edmund Gwynn pulls that off. Richard Attenborough, I I was not as convinced as that little kid was, and I think hearing you say that too, I think we're both in agreement that that's not all that makes a Santa, but it's an important factor in Edmund's winning in the beard category.
I might be jumping ahead here, but like overall though, when I'm trying to compare their two performances, they're pretty similar.
Mhm.
They both have this kind of happy-go-lucky attitude that like, yeah, I'm Santa and everything's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with me saying I'm Santa. Like everybody's gonna accept that. Like he's not hesitant to tell people, yeah, I am Santa. Like
Right.
he thinks like he'll tell people he's Santa, and they're just gonna be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like like they're not gonna look at him like, maybe you should be locked up in Bellevue, which happens later. But pretty positive guy all around until he does take a slightly dark turn
Yeah.
halfway through in both films. But overall, just this sort of source of like joy and just
Oh boy.
happiness that like everywhere he goes, like he kind of it's sort of infectious. It's like it spreads, and I think he's able to do that pretty well, or both actors are able to do that really well in their respective films.
I would agree. A real holly jolly set of disposition. Um, what I notice, and honestly, this doesn't really extend to the character themselves, because we get this sort of one-to-one scene of the Thanksgiving Day parade, and the guy that's supposed to be Santa, and Edmund Gwynn's just like, this guy. What are you doing? What are you doing? You gotta gotta get in there with the wrists. And they both have that scene, and they both discover that this charlatan of a Santa is a drunk, and he's giving him a bad name, literally himself, this Santa. I felt like the remake, and it's not as consistent with this, but like tonally tried to make the joke uh, of this drunk kind of go like harder. Like there's a point where his pants are falling down.
Hmm.
There's like a fart joke and stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, there's that sort of '90s flair that I'm expecting.
There's that John Hughes right
Yeah,
there for that Home
it's
Alone, the guy who wrote Home Alone, John Hughes, not the Breakfast Club John Hughes.
right, right. The only thing about it though is, because of like you mentioned, their performances are so similar. They don't really stick with that tone, do they? They just kind of, they pepper it in here and there, but
Hmm.
more or less they stick with the script. And to your point, it is basically these two actors playing a very, I mean, very similar character. There's almost no difference in the way that they approach the different situations they encounter.
Yeah, it's not too much different. I mean, they're both pretty great with the kids
Hmm.
when they're doing the in-store Santa. I'm just gonna focus on one scene in particular that like tugged at my heartstrings.
Oh yeah,
So in the original, there's a Dutch girl who doesn't really speak English that well. She's an orphan, recently adopted orphan. So the mom takes her and she's like, "Well, she doesn't speak English. She just wanted to see you." And then immediately Santa's like, "Fuck that! I know how to speak Dutch." So he starts talking to her. Sinterklaas. Oh, I love that. That was
yeah,
so charming.
Sinterklaas kapoentje, geef het in mijn schoentje, geef het in mijn laarsje.
And then you see the mom just choking up, and then I started choking up, like, what's happening here?
yeah.
This is goddamn adorable. And I'm like, there's no way the remake is going to do anything that good. And then, lo and behold, the remake brings in a deaf girl. And, oh, I was just like, what? My heart! It was so goddamn charming and adorable.
What's your name? Sammy. That's a beautiful name.
I don't know, just something about, like, kids who just feel like there's no place for them and just finding somebody to connect with finally. I fall for that every time. And the remake did a really good job of kind of upping what the original did. And
Right, right.
so I'll give
I,
props to the remake there. But overall, like he's just great with children, both films. Both actors are great.
yeah, I would say so. I think that his interactions with children are very consistent in both films. Like you said, that scene immediately jumped out to me too. As soon as you said the tearjerker,
Yeah.
I knew where we were going. Uh, what I found interesting, I guess we are going to draw a distinction about the original, is the amount of interactions that we have with adults
Hmm.
and like their perception of him. There seems to be a bit of that lacking in this remake. Like there's less opportunity. Whether it's his interaction with Alfred, who's kind of a kid, he's definitely childlike for his age. Kind of innocent guy. His interactions with the doctors, like we get introduced to him and Doctor Sawyer, who's like the psychiatrist in the film. Like there's just more opportunities for him to interact with the adults, and I felt like the original movie took more time to convince me that the adults would be convinced that whether they believed he was Santa or not, that they would be on his side. And I felt like there were less scenes like that in the remake. Not that logically it was consistent enough that they were friends with him, but I think they took more time out to forge those relationships with adults as well as children in the original in a way that I thought actually served that movie pretty well.
Yeah. I think part of that is the longer runtime in the remake. The remake is at least 20 minutes longer than the original. So he might spend as much time like with kids in the remake, but because there is a much more focus on the adults there too, it sort of takes away from that. But getting back to Albert, that's one of the major differences that I could think of in
Yeah,
the between the two Santas. I'm gonna go to where Santa assaults somebody.
sure.
In the original, Santa goes to defend Albert because this wannabe psychologist or psychiatrist is kind of like just making him feel bad about wanting to be just there for children or just making children happy. He's like, there's obviously something wrong with you or something you did or something you will do that you have this need to make children happy. He's like, how could you do this? So like that makes Santa very angry, and yeah, he just bops him on the head
Yep.
kind of out of nowhere. So he attacks somebody sort of in defense of another person.
Hmm.
In the remake, the drunk Santa who got fired is sort of egging him on in the streets. He's like, "Oh, what do you like the kids in some weird way?"
Yeah.
So he's not necessarily defending anybody else, but he's just, I don't like what you're saying about me. So it's just a small little difference that he
Hmm.
attacked him because of what you're saying about me, as opposed to like I'm doing this for somebody else. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that little distinction too.
Yeah, and I because there's a bit of lawyering in both films. The lawyer's interpretation of that in the remake of like, no, see, you were defending the honor of the kids. I'm like, nah, all right, you can go sell that to the judge. You're not selling it to me. um, yeah, in a lot of ways, actually, we're gonna jump around a little bit more than I expected here, but in a lot of ways, actually, I would say I'm glad you brought up the cane because I'd be remiss to not bring up that Although the beard is lacking, that Santa outfit in the remake is pretty goddamn good. You know, he's got the gold ring. Like I don't know, the glasses are perfect in my opinion. Just like these little circle gold rim glasses and stuff like that. The cane is silver. You know, uh, interesting the way they decide to shoot it in that scene you're talking about. Like it's almost like he throws it at him. It almost feels magical when he assaults that that drunk. Um, but you know, I did want to make note that I think that's somewhere where they did spend their budget well. They nailed that Santa suit in the remake.
Yeah, he has this sort of like Batman putting on the or Bruce Wayne putting on the bat costume, like
Yeah.
this glamour shot of like every like piece of the Santa outfit, just like beautifully shot. Yeah, like you said, that wreath ring that he puts on, you
Yeah.
know, it's like damn, we're going fancy here with this Santa. So yeah, they definitely didn't skimp on the budget with the outfit for sure.
But yeah, I think you're right though. That distinction, there are little moments in the original that again, both actors did a fine job,
Hmm.
but I think there were a lot of moments in the original, and I'm sure we'll talk about this as we go through, where I thought, especially for an older film, it's like actually these choices are actually really smart
Hmm.
choices for a film, and I think a lot of what they did worked. And sometimes when the remake deviated from it, I question whether it worked as well. But I'm sure that's something we'll discuss. But I think just the Alfred distinction, like this idea of this kid who I assume there's really nothing wrong with him. It's like, all right, he likes to volunteer. He's kind of a happy-go-lucky kid, and people want him to be different. They want him to be more jaded. By bringing in a character like that basically fills the same void, and they bring it up actually a couple times in the movie of a character that's being sort of judged for who they are. Um, it extends the story beyond just this Chris Kringle Santa story, and it makes you ask bigger questions about, I guess, society and like why do we deem that certain things need to be a certain way? And Alfred's a nice sort of, how do you put it? He's almost like the canary in the coal mine of like, all right, here's a more normal person. Sure, he's not pretending to be Santa, or he doesn't think he's Santa, but he does like to volunteer. And sort of the implication that someone would make that a bad thing, I think that was interesting to explore.
Hmm. Another thing I think the original does a little bit more than the remake. We talked about Santa's interaction with the children. He definitely interacts with Susan, the our young protagonist, a lot more in the original. I'm thinking of two scenes in particular. The first time that he kind of really hangs out with her, where she's like she doesn't even understand like how to play pretend and everything. So
Yeah.
he's like trying to teach her how to be a monkey. You know, it doesn't really have anything to do with Christmas. It's just you're seeing this old man who's claiming to be Santa Claus just interacting with this child, and that's what you want in your Christmas movie, right? You
Yeah.
want Santa and the kids to hang out. So just a scene that happens in the original that's not in the remake at all. And then another scene, it's another short scene. Susan's just chewing gum, and he's like, "Oh, let me chew some of that. Let me blow a bubble." And then, bam, blows bubble, gets all over his beard. Again,
Yeah.
it doesn't really drive the plot forward, but another charming scene between Santa and Susan. Just not
Absolutely.
in the remake.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, just even because we've watched movies recently, the older films, not quite this old as you mentioned, but this is, in my opinion, sort of like in that Nutty Professor movie where the guy's arm
Yeah, yeah.
get long. It's kind of like that scene because you don't see the bubble,
Mm-hmm.
and the effect is you know it's
Mm.
not gum, but the
Yeah.
effect actually works for the film. But I bring it up just because it's that type of beat that I didn't think worked in the Nutty Professor because of the how unrealistic it was, but I
Mm-hmm.
thought it worked here
Right.
in a movie that's intentionally kind of not supposed to be that real. Like we're talking about, is Santa real in the
Right.
film? And like you mentioned, these moments where he's not necessarily being Santa, but he's being like a charming old man that's having like a fun interaction with a kid. Like those scenes, they stuck out to me too. Just you stick your chest out and you bring your arm up. I was like, that's great stuff, man.
Yeah.
Like for something that else that I think we're going to talk about, for as commercial as this film is, um, these tender moments actually work really well. And again, my jaded old self actually, you know, I de-Grinchified a little bit there and enjoyed it. quite a bit. Good scenes actually.
Yeah, I'm the same as you. My old Grinchy self totally warmed up to those scenes, just seeing, letting a kid be a kid and just, just having fun with them. It's like, why not? Why not? In the spirit of things, I'll have fun too. And I can't really think of any scenes like that in the remake. The two, they don't really have as many scenes together.
No,
There's a lot more scenes with her mom and the lawyer, and we'll get to that. But I
Sure.
can't really think of any scenes between Santa and Susan that really stuck out. Like even just small moments.
No, I don't think I can think of any. Other than her kind of seeing him interact with other people. I guess he described that he speaks different languages, but that's not really like a
No.
charming moment.
Yeah, but yeah, that was in the original too. She was able to see
True,
him talking other languages. So
true. You know, like it just yeah, that was not really a major element of this remake. Which is interesting because I think it's an important part of this story that we're hearing. Like his interaction with Susan is actually really important um, for his relationship with the mother as well, because the mother has to begrudgingly accept his Santa because the kid's buying into it. In this remake, it seems like the film is more oriented on convincing adults more than children. I think the
hmm
kids just blind faith. This is Santa. Um, Even though we're questioning the beard, but like the even like he talks about it in the film, like he says that, well, if I can't convince the mother, I'll never be able to, I don't know, extrapolate. People won't believe in Santa. Big claim there, but I just thought it was very interesting that they spent so much time focusing on the mother's reaction, and you know, I'm sure she's the character we're going to talk about, but I would say there's a major, in some very subtle ways, there's a major difference between the two moms, in my opinion.
yeah, I mean, I'm done talking about Santa. If you want to just get right into the mom character.
Yeah, because although Susan I think is important, it is very important to talk about Mrs. Walker.
Yeah.
So
But I guess before we go, I'll just give a slight edge to Edmund Gwenn in the original. Like we said, just a little more charming moments with Susan. Can't deny that beard also. And, Attenborough does a serviceable job, but didn't really elevate what was already done, is what I feel.
no, I I would agree with you on that, and I think both actors came to the table with a good performance.
Mhm.
I think there's some aspects of the script actually that hold Attenborough back, in my opinion. Edmund Gwynn, for whatever reason, the as everything's presented, and this is something we'll talk about, I think it's a little bit more cohesive and allows Edmund to. The word that's jumping out of my head is legibility. Like I'm able to read from scene to scene a little bit better with him. There's some, I guess, hand holding that goes with that, but in this particular case, I actually thought that it worked, and I do give the slight edge to Edmund based on his performance.
Wait, actually, I just remembered something as you were talking, and I definitely want to bring it up. There's definitely another or a couple of major differences, and like in the original, it's just about like Santa. He doesn't mention anybody else, but in the remake, the Santa confirms that he has talked to the Tooth Fairy,
Mm-hmm.
that he has talked to the Easter Bunny.
Yep.
So he's opening up the whole universe of all these sort of children's icons that aren't necessarily real. So, and he's claiming they are real.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big distinction from the original, and that seems a lot more crazy when
Yeah.
now you're not just saying Santa's real, but now you're saying all these other sort of made up children's icons are real.
Yeah, and there's elements of that too where they question the legitimacy of the North Pole and him having like the ability to make toys up there, and he's like, "Well, it's invisible," and it's
Right.
like, "Hey, bro, you got bring it bring it down a notch." You could see his lawyer just being so nervous about that interaction. Yeah, there are just more of these moments where, although I did say the original, he's more sort of, it seemed unfiltered. No, you're right. In the remake, he's completely unfiltered because of some of the different elements that he's bringing up unprompted,
Yeah.
and um, I don't know, like that original character seemed more self-aware, I guess, in that sense. Like
hmm
he knew that he was going to get a psych test. He knew that people were going to question him, and he's able to sort of present his own evidence and actually kind of counter other people and say, what's your deal? That's not something we really see from this remake Santa. It's like once he
Yeah.
becomes a victim in the film, he kind of just, in a lot of ways, retreats, sort of, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. I guess we did have more to say, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. And now that you're talking too, like I got even more to say, but you can finish your
Yeah,
point.
yeah. But yeah, like I don't know, like the original Santa felt like he was helping himself throughout this process. And in this remake, I don't think that he is helping himself. Like, for instance, in court, everyone's kind of laughing and joking with this guy, like even though he's on trial or hearing or whatever. um, one of his first lines is like a zinger, and the judge is like, "Hey, that's a good one." you know, like I don't know. That kind of is sort of the difference between the Edmund performance and Attenborough is that Edmund has charmed everybody, right? Like everybody's on board with this guy. Even the guys that aren't on board with him are kind of like, man, I wish I wish I didn't have to go up against this guy. I kind of like him, you know. Attenborough, there's actually actively people that don't like him and are certainly trying to undermine him, and I don't think he does enough to sway those people.
No, no, he certainly doesn't. And yeah, just getting back to your point, when Santa, when Attenborough in the remake mentioned, like, yeah, they wouldn't find my factory because it's invisible. I feel like the remake goes kind of out of its way to kind of explain how Santa could be real.
Yeah.
Like, so we got the invisible factory, and then there's one scene like, how could Santa deliver all these presents in one night over there? He's like, well, you see, if you could slow down a time so that an hour becomes a year and a minute becomes a month, and then you could do it. It's like, why are we doing this right now?
Right.
It's just say magic or something, man. You don't gotta Batman Begins. I keep bringing up Batman. You don't gotta Batman Begins it. Give me this origin story about why Santa can do what he does. Just say magic or
Yeah.
just I don't care. I don't need all these details. And I really feel like they're really trying to justify all this stuff. Or like, why can't you make this reindeer fly? Well, you can only fly on Christmas Eve, of course. It's like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Why did we need that? And where did he get that reindeer? Was that one of the 8 reindeer? Can he make any reindeer fly? I was
Right.
just asking more questions at that point. And what is happening?
No, you're right that I wrote that down too. Like there's this, it's not time travel, but there's like this almost like time travel elements of the Santa. It was like, don't need it. The reindeer too, like you said. Well, he can only fly on Christmas. I mean, or Christmas Eve. It doesn't really make any sense. It's like I'd just be like, whose fucking reindeer is that? uh, like that's not my reindeer. If you brought one of my reindeers from the North Pole, I'd show you something. But you know, it was weird, right? Like they introduced this element, and I think honestly it's because they rented reindeers earlier in the film, right? They're like, let's bring it back because some of the Santa evidence in this remake, which you have like what 50, almost 50 years to come up with this stuff, it seemed to be like weaker evidence than in the original film. I did think that it was weird that they went out of their way to defend things that we weren't asking questions about. Maybe they were trying to like do that for actual kids. Um, I think the fact that you have a Santa that's real in your movie is probably enough, right? I don't think you
Yeah,
need to,
exactly.
further cement through loose evidence that this is Santa. Like, I'm gonna go for the ride with you. Just, take me on it. It was a little strange. You're right.
Yeah, I didn't need everything overly explained to me. I didn't need to know that there's a tooth fairy and there's all these other people. So, yeah. So all the stuff they added, I didn't like. That's basically what I'm saying.
All the stuff that they removed, I didn't like. but no, that's just those are good notes, good things to add that we do try to, I guess, expand on the magic in a way that is a little unnecessary. I think that we lose some of the interaction with Susan, who, in my opinion, if you're doing a movie like this, the star of the movie is the little kid and Santa. It's not the mom and the lawyer. So, you know, I think that they could have focused a little bit more on those interactions, and I think we wouldn't have said that that Edmund Gwynn's actor edges it out because they are doing effectively the same thing, but Gwen wins it out because of how much interaction he gets to do in this film. So yeah, I still agree. Slight edge to the
Yeah,
original, just keeping it simple and
yeah,
simple worked.
simple works absolutely. I know we said we'd talk about the mom, but maybe we should go to Susan
Yeah,
because we just keep mentioning her. So let's go there. Susan, portrayed by Natalie Wood in the original.
This dress is very cute. Where did you get such a lovely outfit?
Here at Macy's, we get 10% off.
And Mara Wilson in the remake.
It's weird how he knows so much about toys and kids. He speaks Russian and Swahili.
I think it is good that you introduced this Susan first because her the way she's raised by her mother, I think it is actually important to kind of start here and then we can back engineer her mom's whole deal
Mhm.
in both films. But in the original film, Natalie Wood, though she is sort of a serious child in a lot of ways, allows herself to go on these rides a little bit more, and I think that it's because there's like active sort of encouragement from other people besides her mother, like the lawyer and stuff like that. So she reads to me as okay, she's a kid that is being taught that to take life a little bit more seriously, but she still finds time to be a kid in a way that Mara Wilson does not in this remake. She's wholly serious at almost all times, and it's even more of a highlight on sort of I hate to say it, but like sort of failing of her mother and sort of raising her because I think the mother obviously tried to overcorrect in both films, but she definitely overcorrected in this remake because the kid is like, I mean, like she's sparring with lawyers and stuff like that about like the semantics and details of like every little thing, and it feels like sadder, right? Like it feels
Mhm.
like, oh man, like yeah, her childhood's not very fun, is it? Like
Yeah.
the original, sure, she's to take things seriously and don't believe in fairy tales, because life can really kick you, especially in the middle of a war. Well, just got out of one in in this film, so I get it. Let's keep it serious. Um, in this remake, we're not in wartime. I don't know why these kids have like she doesn't have any friends because
Yeah.
her mom is like done this number on her. And in the original, yeah, the kids are like, well, you can't play zoo with us if you're not going to play zoo, but it's not like she's got nobody.
Mhm.
It's just different, right?
Yeah. I think that's you nailed it right there. That's what the big distinction between them is that the Susan in the remake is just more joyless. I guess you could say she doesn't really seem to enjoy anything at all. Like I remember, like there's a scene where he takes her to stand. He's like, "Well, I don't even believe in him." It's like you can get a candy cane. I'm trying to cut down on my sugar intake. Funny beats, but like, damn, I feel bad for this kid. I don't
Yeah.
even like candy canes or anything. And yeah, she's at least in the original, trying to interact with the kids. She doesn't understand because her mom has sheltered her so much to like, you can't even use your imagination. It's like, damn. All right. But, like we said before, she has that scene where she's playful. She's pretending to be a monkey. She's being a kid,
Yeah.
let a kid be a kid. And, you know, maybe she's too serious. And now that she's introduced to Santa, now she's more like a kid. Hey, that's a good arc.
Yeah.
let's do that. She doesn't really have that arc in the remake. Her arc is really just I don't believe till I believe. You don't really.
Right.
She's still sort of this grumpy, sort of 64-year-old lady, as she was described
Right.
by the lawyer. But she doesn't really have anything she likes to do, and yeah, there's no kids for her to hang out with.
That's that scene is missing, right? The scene of the fun, like
Hmm.
even our intro to Susan, like in the original, like I guess the housekeeper or whatever is like, oh yeah, she's over there with that lawyer again, and it actually makes in a lot of ways a lot more sense. The way they're hanging out and based on some of the backstories that we learn in the original, but in that film, the kid's just over there enjoying the parade. That's enjoyment, right? Even though she knows like details about the parade and how it works. So yeah, it's a better Santa than last year. She still like very much reads as a kid. To your point, like she does not read as an old woman. She reads as a kid that just is a bit more jaded than your average kid. But like, it's a very easy ramp into her pretending to be a monkey in the living room, right? In this remake, you've got our introduction is you got this like pre-recorded video of her mother. I have gone over to the lawyer's apartment for the view, and I'll see you over there. It's like
that was weird. It's like
it was
who
crazy,
does that?
you know. It was really strange, and you know, there just again because the carb intake, the video, it almost doesn't read that she would even be sort of helping this lawyer interact with the mom. I guess other than her desire to want a family, which again reads more desperate the way this film is portrayed. Um, it just felt, you know, like you said, that joyless word. It comes out to me. It just felt kind of like, man, it's a bummer, right? I wish this kid could relax a little bit and have some fun. And in this original film, they let us have that enough that I don't know. It felt this is a weird statement, but it felt more like a Christmas movie, you know, in the original. This Susan just even when towards the end when she gives the judge like a Christmas card. Um, one, it's a weird beat because there's no pre what is it? There's no foreshadowing of that. Like in the original film, when she hands a letter, it's to Chris, which makes sense because of their relationship and interaction. She just hands the judge a letter, and it's cute, I guess, now because she now is a kid versus before when she was the 64-year-old woman. Like, I don't know, just there were these little beats here or there that these minor little tweaks, but they change a lot about this character. And I prefer the innocence and the youth of this original versus this sort of cold, you know, joyless character that we described, which is really hard to do because this is a very likable actress. You know, I
Mhm.
brought up Matilda. She's
Yeah.
she's great, but not here.
Yeah, I think part of it too is just because we do get fewer scenes with her and Santa interacting. You know, if one of the major plot points of this movie is to have this kid who doesn't believe in Santa believe in Santa by the end, well, give me scenes to get us there. You know, we don't get as many scenes in the remake to get us there. Like we said, the gum and the monkey thing, silly scenes, but you know, this is a kid. Joy is coming into her life
Mm-hmm.
because of this man. It's very Santa behavior coming from
Yeah.
this man who's claiming to be Santa. She doesn't really do that so much with her in the remake because they just don't have those scenes,
Yeah.
and that's, you know, it's not her fault. It's just the way they put together the movie, and unfortunately, it's just not as good as the original. I'm
Yeah.
just flat out saying it.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. This is the second time that we're bringing up that like script choices or hindering these performances. I mean, for instance, there's a scene where Santa is talking. Santa, Adam Burrow is talking to the reindeer. Like, maybe put a kid in that scene. You know,
Yeah.
maybe they should go sledding one day. You know, like give me like two, like you said, two little scenes, right? Two little scenes, and I think we're not having this conversation.
hmm
But they're not there, and instead of showing the joy of Christmas through like acts, um, we're getting litigation about Christmas. I mean, kind of throughout the entire film. It's like there, the shift in the original film from fun to law. There's a line there. There's a delineation. Like they, you know, it's the same film, but it feels like we've progressed to another aspect of this film. I could always imagine a legal outcome uh, based on the characters that I'm seeing in this film, and sort of something that we'll talk to, sort of why this Santa is important to this department store. Something we will get to eventually.
So I got really nothing else to add. Um, so again, just Edge to Natalie Wood in the original.
Yeah.
She just had more to do. You know, Mara Wilson did fine with the grumpiness, but I just wish that child had a little more joy. I wish she had a few more scenes with Santa. So Natalie Wood, Susan,
Yeah.
and plus just one little tiny distinction. Well, I keep fucking doing this. Let's move on. No wait, I have one more thing. Just like a fucking lawyer, right? Just in the original film, I think they call her Susie a lot. I don't think they call her Susie at all in the remake. I don't know, maybe in the end. That's a small difference because Susan's just much more mature, more adult thinking. Susie a little more playful, a little more childish. So just a little thing, difference there.
Major difference. I mean, little but major. The fact that we can sort of, I guess, infantilize the kid. You know what I mean? Like that. There's no room for that in this remake. Not for this kid. So yeah, I would say that Natalie Wood uh, ekes out when you're in the category of cute kid. The fact they let you be a cute kid, yeah, she wins. You know, solid performance by Mara Wilson, but it's not the Christmas performance that I wanted.
All right, so now I think we're okay to move on. Now we can backtrack a little bit to the mom. We have a slight name change here too, and just it's very slight. So we have Maureen O'Hara, who played Doris Walker in the original.
No, you misunderstand. I want you to tell her the truth. What's your name?
And then Elizabeth Perkins as Dory Walker in the remake.
My mom.
I am the parent. You are the friendly guy down the hall.
Maureen O'Hara, we get introduced to her, but like, I feel like the stakes aren't necessarily very high, right? Like when we meet her, Edmund Gwynn's kind of running around. Who's in charge of this parade? This man is a drunkard. It's a disgrace, a degenerate. And there's kind of a question mark as to who's in charge, right? And then eventually you come to this random woman who we've not been introduced to, and it's like, yeah, that's Miss Walker. She's in charge. It's like, all right, bet, cool. Here's here's the character. Elizabeth Perkins. It's very apparent that she's in charge. She kind of runs things a lot like her daughter, very analytical and with an iron fist. So this intro, though it's more or less the same intro because we're introduced to more of the corporate interests at play for this character, how important this parade is because the department store could be acquired if things like this parade don't go well and stuff like that. So like we're already introduced to her career, her purpose and stuff like that. That in a way we get more eased into in that original film. It's like here's Miss Walker. Hey, this parade's going well, and then over time we learn about her kid. We learn about her career. It's just right there, all out, very early in this remake scene, and I think it sets the stage for where we go from there. Specifically about, in my opinion, about the corporate interests at play in this film that sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, in my opinion.
I just want to make a distinction because of like the time when each film was shot. So 1947, like both movies, Mrs. Walker, she's called Mrs. Walker, but she's divorced. From 1947 to have one of our stars be a divorced woman, that's pretty progressive. Gotta say. Also, it is a woman in charge too. Like she's got a pretty high position in where she works. So again, just 1947, she's like, damn, this is very progressive. Like she wasn't a secretary, she wasn't a school teacher. There weren't any real instances where I could think her gender kind of held her back, which you think 40s for sure, right? Like the boys came back from the war, right? So the women can go back to the kitchen or whatever happened back then. So, just kudos to the 47 film for just being incredibly progressive and having a divorced woman just being a woman of, power, merit. Yeah. So, just very good there. A lot of points. One thing that I like the original did was when she finds Susie across the hall at the lawyers, and then she sees like, her watching the parade, and she's like, then she explains to him like, look, I kind of raised her this way where I don't want her to like believe, use her imagination too much. I don't want her thinking this, and this. And that's laid out pretty early in the film.
Yeah. The
remake doesn't do it like that. When she goes to see her daughter in the lawyer's apartment, she seems fine. She's like, oh, look, there's Santa. Where's Santa? We got a good Santa. Like, she seems like happy. Like, oh, let's check out this Santa. And then it's only after he takes Susie to see Santa that she finally is like, okay, look, this is how I raised her, and you can't do this, this, and this. I know it's a small difference, but I think it was better to introduce that early in the film
I agree.
because you set the rules. So now I know where we are and I know where we can go. I didn't like how the remake introduced it later, so it's like, oh, so because I thought we were here, but now we're really here, so it was a little messier how they did it in the
Yeah,
remake.
I think it was messier that you one I agree with you completely. Like when the father was gone, I was like, oh, I'm sure there's gonna be some 1940s reason why he's not there. Nope, divorce. Thought he was a good guy. Didn't turns out he wasn't. I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
wow,
you easily could have said he died or something in the war,
yeah,
even,
yeah,
right? Perfect, but no, let's stick with the divorced woman. Very
yeah.
very progressive.
And honestly, like a better backstory than what we get in this remake, which is shocking. That I mean, look, we're jumping in. We're talking about the character. In this original film, like she introduces her own sort of backstory, right? It's like, hey, this is what happened. Like you mentioned, I basically try to tell her that Prince Charming may not be all he's built out to be, and here's why, because I'm divorced and reasons, right? In the remake, it's like the lawyer's like, well, I don't know a lot about Miss Walker either, even though I want to marry her. Just some things that I've gathered here or there, and it's like, all right, the dad's a drunk, and then he just kind of disappeared, and like, is he coming back? Like, again, it opens this field of like, is that part of this? Is that going to come back in any way, or can we ignore it? Like, again, because it's such a litigious movie, it's like, was there an annulment? Is there the, like, I
Yeah,
don't
again,
know.
it's just trying. I feel like the Santa over explaining things, like what how Santa could do things. Again, we're just kind of over explaining the divorce. It's like we didn't need that. I get
Yeah,
it. Just say they're divorced. It's good
yeah,
enough for me because like they don't mention that till very late in the remake, and I
super
thought,
late.
oh, maybe he did die in this movie. But no, it comes out later. Oh no, he was a drunk and he left her when she was pregnant. It's like, oh, why are you telling me this now?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
we're like more than halfway through the movie. I don't get it.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of over explaining. I do want to come back to that, to the over explaining, but that scene, the Thanksgiving Day parade, right? We get introduced to a lot of things in this original film that are clean, right? All right, I came home. She works a lot, right? So she doesn't watch her kids as much as you would kind of, like you mentioned, expect, like a housewife or something to do. She has prestige at her career. She's like head of the marketing department. That's pretty impressive. Um, this guy is like angling to get with her, but it's cuter because like the kid is like, did I ask the question right? And he's like, oh boy, like it's clear that the guy's interested in her, but it's not like this over the top thing that we see in a remake where like it's really obvious that there's a thing with them. They interact in a way as if they've dated before and stuff like
hmm
that, and I thought that was a bit of a misstep. Especially considering, like you mentioned, the way we find out about her past so late in the film. Just a weird misstep. Um, and then I think that it was a misstep of overcomplicating things. Whereas in the original, look, I picked a Santa. Wow, the Santa's popular. I guess people like Santa, right? Just this Macy's storyline. We're at Macy's. The Santa's doing great. And we have interest to take credit for that, right? In this remake, the Coles is being acquired, but it did not get acquired because the bank gave the Coles a loan. So this Christmas season is really important because if we sell out of our stuff, then we'll be able to pay the interest on the loan, and that's good. So that evil other corporation that's there, like kind of like the what's his name, the Dr. Claw from like fucking Inspector Gadget. He just shows up like for
Yeah,
like
we'll
two
get to
minutes
that. I want to talk about that, but I'm saving
all
all
right,
that.
yeah, we'll talk about that. But like, it's so convoluted, and I'm not gonna lie to you, man. What really turned me off to this remake, Mom, not just the way that she raised her kid, which I get it. She had a rough time with her husband. I could see how this happened, but the way they treated, the the lawyer, the nice lawyerly guy. I mean, geez, the guy he gets down on one knee. He's gonna it's just it's such for a Christmas movie. Again, let's take this into context. I'll take the overbearing kid and the mom and all that stuff in another film. We're in Christmas movie time. Don't give me the middle of the movie engagement and be like, well, why? What made you think I'd want to marry you? I don't know. You're in a Christmas movie. And she's like, oh, you're a fool, and just like gone, right? She's out of the movie for a significant amount of time after like rebuffing the lawyer, and it I'm not gonna lie to you, it kind of pissed me off. I was not a fan of the way she conducted herself in that proposal, and I'm like, why are they doing this to this mom? Like, why are they making her so unlikable?
I want to get into it, but I don't. I want to talk about the lawyer before I really dive deep into that
Okay.
relationship that they have. Is there anything else about the mom in either film that kind of stood out?
No, I mean, to your point, just going there with the mom in the original was a bold choice that paid off.
Hmm.
Again, I don't know how audiences at the time took to that character. I don't know if that was controversial at all, but like, you know, in a lot of ways, watching that movie felt like watching a movie that I could watch today. Like
Hmm.
there weren't these weird question marks about gender and relationships and stuff like that. It's just like, I work a lot. Here's my kid. I don't want my kid believing in silly shit because, you know, I tried that. It didn't work for me. Versus this other film where like it's over the top, right? Like it's the same spirit, I guess. That like I had a rough relationship and I don't want my kid to believe in goofy stuff, but like she dialed it up to 11, man. It was just too much. So I would say for me, again, a slight nod, not even slight, a nod to the original.
Yep, I'm in the same boat. I do want to get into that relationship, so let's move on to our lawyer character, who was renamed for reasons. So we have John Payne as Fred Gailey in the original,
I must be a pretty good lawyer. I'd take a little old man and legally prove to the world that he's Santa Claus.
and Dylan McDermott as Brian Bedford.
Well, let's just say, for the sake of argument, that there is a Santa Claus and that you don't believe in him. Is it worth the risk that you might not get anything for Christmas this year?
I don't know why he changed his name. It doesn't make sense to me. I guess alliteration's cool. I don't know why he couldn't be Fred Gailey in the remake. So that was a weird change. Yeah, it's different. They start at different places, right? In the original, Fred Gailey hasn't even met the mother yet, right? It's just she's just like she introduces herself. Hello, I'm the mother that lives across the street. I haven't met you yet. I believe my daughter's here. So they're meeting for the first time. So we're able to track the whole journey of their relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The remake, like you said, they sort of have a history. Maybe they were dating. Maybe they weren't dating. Maybe he's pursued her before and she's turned him down. We don't know. Oddly enough, that's the one thing that the movie doesn't over-explain is their backstory. A movie that over-explains many things. We don't really get a definite answer as to like where exactly are they with that relationship. So like when he proposes and she says no, maybe you're misunderstanding where our relationship is. It's like, well, I don't know either because you never fucking told
Right.
me, man.
Right.
So I could see why he was confused because I was confused too.
I was certainly confused. Yeah, there was just again legibility is this word that jumping out at me. It was hard to read this. Like now that you're kind of describing it, and it's true. Like they met on Thanksgiving, and by like Christmas in this original film, they're a thing. But honestly, given the time frame, like 1940s, yeah, I could kind of see that, like weird, love at first sight type of scenario. So yeah, I mean, watching this original movie, like 1940s, I could kind of believe this love at first sight kind of scenario, and in a lot of ways, it would be a good thing for her to be married, given the year. So they thread that needle really cleanly, even though the timeline is so short. Uh, like you mentioned, the remake. I don't know where they are, um, in the relationship. Clearly, they're far enough along that he thought it would make sense to get engaged, and there's not any indication. I would say Fred Daly to me in that original film, everyone's kind of innocent, right? Like Fred Gailey should not be trying to help Santa when he does, and there's reasons why he shouldn't that are outlined and make sense even today. They're like your firm's going to think it's crazy for you to take on this case. I don't really recall that being a plot point in a remake, and there was no indication that Bedford was a silly man or not a serious person. So it just felt strange that she would call him a fool and all this other stuff because there was no indication that he was overreaching here. Other than her saying, "Well, that's a no for me, dog." Uh, uh, other than that, like, and again, that legibility made me not like this character because I'm like, the guy's putting himself out there. He's, I'm not saying she owes him anything, but I think she owes him more than you're an idiot. Like, kind of explain, I'm not there yet. I'm not ready for this type of relationship. Like that, it to me feels better than what we got, which is just like she took like the shiv and just twisted it. I thought it was really strange.
I'll get to the relationship because I got stuff to say about that. But I do want to just talk about the portrayal of the lawyer a little bit. I
Yeah.
think Fred Gailey seemed more to believe that this Chris Kringle guy was Santa. I just bought into that more. He just seemed more on his side, like right away. Like, oh yeah, that guy. I think that guy is Santa. Like, one thing he does is he lets him stay with him in a pretty funny scene that we don't have in the remake. Because originally, in the original, he was gonna stay with the general manager and his wife, and he had to get his wife drunk in order for her to agree to it. And a pretty funny scene. And it's always risque having drunk people in a Christmas movie. I enjoyed that. I think that one might have been for the adults. So yeah, he totally buys into it, and he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna stay with me. We're gonna get this whole thing sorted out." And then he's, not only does believe in him, but he's sort of using him too to kind of get closer to the family as well.
Sure.
But I never really get that so much for Brian Bedford. I mean, he's really nice to this Chris Kringle character, but he never really stepped up in any way to sort of really show his support that he believes that this guy is Santa. He does take Susie there, and that's all he really does. He's really nice to him. He talks to him a lot. There's a lot of interactions with him and Santa. But he does. It's just more of him like complaining about his life than really helping him prove that he is Santa. So I just thought, in the movie where the main focus of this movie is this man Santa Claus. You have, you got people on both sides. I don't believe this guy is Santa. I believe this guy is Santa. So I definitely believe that Fred Gailey is one of those. I believe this guy is Santa. Brian Bedford, a little more gray for me. I wasn't sure. He seems like a good guy, but I never was fully bought in that he thought this guy was Santa.
I 100% agree. Like Fred Gailey, like literally was like, nah, you know what? I believe him. Like, and when he said that, I was like, okay, this guy is fighting from that level of like, hey man, I believe you. I'm gonna try to convince him that you're telling the truth. Um, Bedford felt like he was like, you're a nice guy. I don't want you. I don't want you getting committed. This is what we're gonna do to get you out of this trial. It wasn't like you're Santa and I'm gonna prove it. It was like, hey buddy, look, you got some good years left. Let's try to keep him out of Bellevue, basically. Yeah, it is strange, right? Like the original film is not necessarily concerned about you believing in Santa or not, right? It's just gonna be like, oh no, this is Santa. Um, this remake just it shies away from that while simultaneously trying to say that he is. Like, you got to pick one, right? Like, is this Santa? And if the answer is yes, then okay, we got ourselves a Christmas movie, right? If the answer is no, then we have some other film, and I'm not sure why you would even take these characters and put them in this film. Like, there's a different way to do a Santa movie without Santa and get this result. But like, you have Santa, so where are we going with this? Yeah, McDermott felt to me like the more capable lawyer.
Yeah.
But I don't think that really mattered. Now, did it?
It's because it's not about that. It's not about which lawyer is capable. That's not the name of the movie.
The Santa lawyer. Yeah, like Dylan McDermott, who I think is, arguably probably one of the few reasons that this film even kind of works. It, yeah, just they. what are we doing from here? You know, as the lawyer, like Fred Gailey certainly, you know, from a lot of angles, from the relationship with the mom, the relationship with the daughter, the relationship with Chris, like those three things, that pillar works really, really well. And McDermott kind of has a relationship with the daughter, not that great of a relationship with the mom, lukewarmish. You know, like I say, he's more like, hey, Chris, this is what's here's my problems, like you mentioned, here are my problems, and it's like, all right, you know, like I don't know, it felt strange. Like his wanting to defend Chris felt like it came out of nowhere too, because of how little they interacted.
Yeah, well, that's another big difference between the two films. Chris Kringle's in Bellevue. Fred Gailey goes to him with nobody kind of tells him to go there. Fred Gailey goes there because this is wrong. You should not be here, Chris. I got to get you out of here. I will do whatever I need to get you out of here. In the remake, Brian Bedford doesn't make that decision. He gets a call from Dory Walker. She's like, "Can you please do this? Do this for me." I guess. It's so again just more evident that Fred Gailey really bought into this guy Santa. I gotta help this guy. I will go. Nobody needs to tell me to help this man. As Brian Bedford, he had to get the phone call before he did anything to help Chris Kringle out.
Yeah, it's a it's a big difference, and I think that the reason that they had to make well, they didn't actually. It would have worked better if they didn't make the phone call. But I think part of the reason they had to make the phone call is because you had that proposal scene.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, we got
Like,
this romance, and I'm going there now. I am ready to
there it
go
is.
into this romance. Okay. So I'm gonna start with the original. So we got Fred Gailey, like we said, he's trying to get to know Doris Walker. He doesn't really know her. He is using the daughter as an introduction. He's like, I guess I could have Thanksgiving alone. I think I can make a sandwich or something. Nonsense. Yes, did I do it right? You did great, kid. He's got a great rapport with the kid, and he's did it. His plan worked. He's in, Reggie. He's
Yeah.
slowly working to just get close with Doris. But you know what? We don't really focus on that. Because that's not what movie this is, Reggie. This is about, is this guy Santa or isn't he? So while it's sprinkled throughout the film, this kind of like back and forth between Doris and Fred, it's not the main focus. I feel like the remake was like, let's make that the focus. Because that's what kids want in their Christmas movie. They want two adults finding love for reasons. And yeah, it's just, I don't know. I think if you're a kid and you're watching a Christmas movie and you want to see Santa, you don't want to see these two adults who may or may not get together. I mean, yeah, he's nice enough, and she just keeps turning him down for reasons because she got hurt in the past and doesn't want to get hurt or some. I don't know. It wasn't that interesting, but it's just like we spent a lot of time with Dory and Brian. With Dory and Brian, we spent a lot of time with them. I mean, there's that whole scene where they go on the date, which is not in the original at all. And we spend a lot of time. We got a lot of Christmas music montage watching these two connect in various spots in New York City. And then, like you said, she turns him down. And then it's like, oh, damn it. And then we have the whole trial. And, we don't see, you said the star was the little girl. We don't see her anymore after that proposal goes sour, because we're just focusing in on the adults at this point.
Right.
The movie, you said that the sort of the legal stuff is sort of sprinkled out throughout the remake, but the movie takes like a hard turn as soon as that proposal is just shot down, because it takes on a completely different tone. We focus on completely different characters for the latter half of the movie, and it's just like, what happened? Where's my Christmas movie? Where's the little girl who needs to be convinced that this man is Santa Claus? So we spend so much time on these adult characters and the relationship, which is just ultimately meh at the end of the day. And then at the end, she kind of shotgun wedding marries him, and it's just like, wait, you said no before, but now you're gonna marry him because Santa happened? So the foundation of your relationship is the Santa guy? It's like, what kind of relationship is this? I don't know. I was not a fan.
No, I was not a fan either, and honestly because of how jarring that proposal scene is. Because when they first go on the date, right? Like she seems to be kind of excited about this date. They're, I'm gonna find was it a sitter? And it ends up being Chris, which again, dropped opportunity here to have a
Right.
Chris, Susie something. I don't know.
So much they could spend with the two of them together,
I
but
I
instead we
would,
spend time with the adults.
bro. Like I'm telling you, I should write scripts. You know what I would do while they were gone? She would have decorated the entire house, right? And it would have had all this Christmas stuff, and the mom would have been like, "Oh," but like they would have had fun doing it, right? The problem is you can't really make that scene because you're about to have this seemingly nice date end in complete disaster. And like at a certain point, because McDermott says this, Dylan McDermott says this, his Bedford character, but look, I've been nothing but nice to you. I've gone out of my way to with your kid. I really like you. I think this is going somewhere. And he's laying out. It's like I'm giving you a lot, and you're giving me nothing. Like she's literally giving this guy no reason to stick around or be in her life, and somehow that just gets resolved, right? Like I don't
Yeah,
know. It felt like that doesn't read properly to me. Like that was a
yeah,
pretty brutal rejection. I mean, the line about him being a fool to me was like, that's a lot, especially considering this guy is a lawyer. That he's going to end up defending your friend. It just didn't sit right with me. And I'm looking at this Dory Walker character who's just like, and it just plummets for me. Like Miss Walker in the original film is an awesome character. She may be super serious, but like, there's room for joy in her life. This Walker, I mean, between her kid and this lawyer and the way she interacts with Chris, I'm like, this lady kind of sucks, you know? And that's extended now to my lawyer character, which means I no longer care how their relationship ends. It doesn't matter to me if they get together or not because I'm not very excited about Mrs. Walker in this remake. So it's just a complete misstep here.
yeah. I'll defend her decision a little bit. I mean, she does say, "What have I done to make you think that this is where I wanted to go?" It's like, yeah, she hasn't done anything. So why did you propose? That is reaching.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, Reggie, when you proposed, but I definitely had a lot of conversations about getting
Right.
married and like we're gonna get married, right? So I'm not gonna just shock you with this ring in the middle of Christmas like some movie or something.
Yeah.
Um,
Like,
so it was like a bit of a bonehead move on his part. I guess she was kind of leading him on too, but I think they're both kind of flawed in that
that's
sense.
fair.
I won't put all the I won't put all the onus on her. He was kind of stupid in that aspect too.
That's fair.
But then it's like the way it's resolved at the end, it's just like now we're getting married because we both met at this church.
Yeah. No.
It's completely weak. Like her whole like argument, like about like, well, I don't want to do this. It's like, well, where'd that woman go? Who's
Yeah.
this woman now? It's like I don't understand. I didn't really care for their relationship. It just, I in general, like I don't want this relationship. I want to focus on Christmas. I want to know if this man's Santa. What are we doing? Focusing on
Yeah.
these two characters so much.
Yeah. There just was not as in my opinion, there was not an on-screen arc that made sense for that resolution.
Yeah.
Even I don't know, just the original. It's just so much easier to follow
Yeah.
the plot, you know. And like I said, I like McDermott's performance. I think he actually, in my opinion, may be the strongest actor in this film in terms of what he's able to do. But it's just a little undermined. And like you mentioned, it ultimately is a Christmas movie. Like I'll take the schmaltzy, they get together thing, but you gotta up the Santa, up the candy. Give me more trees and skating in Central Park. Like you got to give me more of that before we dive into this relationship. And that doesn't happen. And I think it's because of some of our side distractions that happen in this remake.
Yeah. So I'll just give points to Gailey, John Payne's portrayal. It's just cleaner. It's just
Yeah.
well, we didn't focus on it. Thank you, because I didn't want to focus on his relationship with the mom. I thought it'd be nice if they got together. And they eventually do. You know, they don't get married like right away. They're just not even engaged. They're just like, all right, we'll live together. Maybe we'll buy this house.
Yeah.
And then, as opposed to the other one, which is like, okay, now we're married, we're buying a house, and you're pregnant. Holy shit!
Yeah,
That happened really fast. I don't. It's too much.
5 minutes of screen time, man.
Yeah,
It was crazy.
Like, I get it. Oh, it's a Christmas miracle. Is it? Because I don't know, man. I feel like somebody had to do something against their will for this to happen this fast. I don't know.
Seriously. And who's it for? Like,
right?
Who's that resolution for? Is it for the kids? Because like that's a pretty like adult joke, you know what I mean? Like like hey, these guys bang Christmas Eve, and you know next day they're married and she's pregnant. It's like, jeez, bro, one and done, huh?
Yeah.
So you know, I'm sitting there. It's like I don't think a kid necessarily cares about that, right? Or maybe the film works better if you do 1 year later. It's like, okay, they're in the house, and then the next year, a letter from Santa. Again, I don't know why I'm writing scripts for people, but a letter from Santa comes in. Hope you enjoy the whatever, and like there's the baby brother. Like I don't know, like
or you just don't have her want a baby brother.
Yeah,
just the house and family. That's it.
True.
It's good enough. A dog. I want a dog. There you go.
That would have been good enough.
We don't need the brother.
That's true. And then the other side of it is, in this remake, we don't see Chris again.
We don't see him in either film.
No, they see him at the old folks home. Because Mr. Macy's says you must really be Santa because he got that X-ray machine or something like that.
Oh, you mean so like right after the trial they don't see him again? In the
yeah, sorry.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but like you know, and again, like not that he's prominently seen in the original Exorcist, but like after that trial, we really don't see Chris again in the remake. And again, I think it's kind of important. I think it's kind of you know that not to get into the ending too much, but like the cane in the house, I think that's kind of it's a major deal in my opinion. You know, this is just not. I think what we're getting at is that there's not a lot of focus on Santa in the Christmas movie, and that's a strange choice.
I'm gonna back up a little bit. I can't get over this brother thing. So like, the brother thing might make a little more sense if she seemed like a lonely kid who couldn't really get along with other kids, or just was just like awkward around other kids. But like the fact that she doesn't really show any signs of wanting to be social around other kids, that she kind of enjoys being a loner. The brother thing again is it's totally unnecessary. And yeah, who is that joke for? Because it's like, all right, I don't know. So. Yeah, I didn't like the brother thing, I guess. Now that I'm thinking about it, that was a dumb thing.
I thought that it was an overreach, and again, with the base material of the story there, it is a unnecessary inclusion considering we're not going to see said brother. So now, I guess the adult version of me has to consider like, all right, what happened after this this shotgun wedding? You know, like I don't want to think about that. I want to think about Christmas. You know, seriously.
All right, so that's pretty much it for our main characters. There are some other differences. I did want to touch upon one little difference when it comes to branding and merchandising, Reggie. So in our original film, it's the company that Doris works for is Macy's, and in the remake it is Kohl's, which is not KOHLS that we know. It's COLES. It's not a real store. It's totally made up for this film. Just wanted to say that because the original Macy's and Mr. Macy himself is in there, so is Mr. Gimble. All those big shots are actually in the film, and I actually texted you like just drink every time they say Macy's.
Sure.
So I just want to make that little distinction. Macy's was asked to be the store in the remake, but they declined, saying the original is good enough. We don't want to ruin it, and so do your own thing. So they did their own thing, and I think that's why they sort of included this rivalry with this other store. Which should we go there now? Should we mention?
Yeah, I guess we can go there. Let's go there.
All right, so we have a totally new subplot in this remake, and that is Shoppers Express, the evil, the evil department store right across the street. I'll just throw out some of the actors that we have here. So our top evil guy is Joss Ackland.
I'm finished. I want this man declared insane.
And he's uncredited in this film too. But he is Victor Landberg, and then he has two sort of lackeys, James Remar as Jack Duff, and Jane Leeves as Alberta Leonard. So we have this evil department store that wants to see Kohl's go down. As you mentioned, the stakes are higher in this remake, because if Kohl's doesn't have good sales this holiday, then they're going to get bought out by the Speedway Express or shop. I'm going to keep saying Speedway for some reason. I keep saying Speedway.
I guess, bro.
So it's Shoppers Express is going to buy out Kohl's. So not only does Santa have to prove he's real, but he has to save this department store.
Yeah.
Did you want to start?
I want to start one. This is muddy, right? Like just the introduction to Joss Ackland's character.
The introduction to his character is so fucking like like this guy is clearly the villain. He's like pretty much in the dark. It's like it's really dark, very like one color, like gray. He's just grumpy. Got the fucking music playing. It's like this guy is a villain. You get it. The only thing missing was the mustache to twirl. That's it.
I was 100% there. Like I was watching, I was like, this is some mustache twirling nonsense. And like I don't understand why we need that, like at all. Like I don't think the story requires this much friction and resistance, right? Like I like just having the sales be better at Kohl's is enough. Just like in the original movie, like this Santa has been a boon to this business. Like we've got this character that's supposed to be like trying to undermine them. And like he immediately recognizes that this random Santa is a threat to his acquisition plan, and he sends out his little like 90s movie goons. This was the most 90 choice that I've ever seen in a film, which is, well, they got to know what the problem is. It's like, no, they don't. Were we really this dumb in the 90s? I'm trying to recall. I guess so.
Bit,
yeah. Yeah, it's true. Everything was to the extreme and maximized and stuff like that. And if the clocks went to 2000, we weren't going to know what to do. Like I didn't get it. Like I didn't get why because he's not in the movie enough, and there's not enough like active sabotage. Like it just
right.
Okay, you're gonna undermine Kris Kringle, right? But that's somehow gonna boomerang back on Macy's that because this Chris is so popular, it happens to have offset the fact that they're failing. It's just it was more than we needed. Is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the inclusion of this department store was just to give us a bad guy. Because in the original film, there's not really a bad guy. There's that guy who's sort of pretending to be a psychiatrist, Dr. Sawyer. Yeah. So he's sort of a bad guy, but he's not really a strong villain because he's kind of a pathetic villain. He's kind of very wimpy and everything. So I think, 90s mentality. We need a clear bad guy here, right? We in Home Alone, we had Harry and Marv. We got to have somebody here. Right. So we introduce this Victor Landberg character, and like I said, he's uncredited because he pretty much doesn't really do anything. Like you said, he is introduced. Obviously, he's our bad guy.
Yeah.
What do they do really to sabotage him? They get the old drunk Santa to antagonize him. That's your master plan. That's your master plan, is to overtake this other corporation. Just get this drunk guy to egg on this other old guy. It was pretty weak, but I think they did that because if you think about the plot of the original, let's have a trial. Let's have a hearing. Help us out, lawyer friends. Let's have a hearing to see if this guy should be, in this mental institution. Is that something that happens. Like I'm not aware of that we need these legal
That's fair.
procedures for somebody to be locked away. So I feel like by introducing a bad guy, it's like, well, the bad guys are funding, or they're sort of, they're behind the prosecution for this guy to be locked away. So they have something to gain if this guy's locked away. Where in the original, it's like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
Why is this trial happening exactly? It's weak, and I just kind of accepted it because I was like, maybe this is how it happened in the 40s, but like having a
I get
trial
it.
over somebody being locked away just seemed weird to me.
Yeah, no, I think you could get Shuttered Island all day in the 40s. I mean, some random department store like psychologist like this guy should be locked away. Next thing you know, you're locked away. That's ooh,
Right.
scary. So I get your point that translating that story directly to the 90s doesn't necessarily work, but even the way they tried to translate it here didn't really work because
Oh
I
yeah, I
don't
didn't
think
say
they
it was
took.
good. I'm just saying.
No,
That's why I think they did it. It could have absolutely been done a lot better, but
right, right. I just they skipped so many steps to get there, right? Like I don't know, for whatever reason, and this is a complete aside, those characters felt to me like characters from like Hudson Hawk, which is not a great movie. But like these two random bad guys doing random evil. They know where the guy like goes to the bar. They take photos of him as he's being assaulted. They again because it's supposed to be a Christmas movie. Some of like the things that the drunk Santa is saying to Santa Claus, it's just like, bro,
yeah,
that's a lot.
yeah, that's like, come on, this is a kids movie. He's like,
Yeah,
whoa, calling him a pedophile, pretty much. It's like,
that's
damn, for a Christmas movie. Oof.
yeah. We're, they're getting coal in their stocking, man. Like just and so are the writers. Yeah, I just thought that it was like it was too dark. And for not enough payoff for it to go there, right? And uh even like when the plan was thwarted, like the guy was like, I guess it's gonna come back on me. It's like, is it? Like you've got 800 locations or whatever it is. Like Shoppers Express will be fine. You just won't own a failing business. Like who cares? Let them fail and then buy them later. Like what? Is this the last attempt at buying the Coles? It's just so weird, right? Like when I was watching the original movie, I was thinking I was not expecting this movie to be so for a movie that's about like corporatism and stuff like that. It's a very corporate movie.
Oh
They're like, oh, the evils of capitalism. Go to Macy's.
yeah.
Like that. That's the movie is a Macy's commercial. But
Yes.
somehow, like the way they did it, I'm like, this is a heart wrenching Christmas tale. That happens to be about a major department store that still exists. Now, in this movie, I've got a major department store that doesn't exist, and somehow it feels more corporatist to me. And I'm like, how did they do that? And I think it was because they introduced this bad guy character of like the evil global tech type guy, and it's just like it doesn't work. He's not in the movie enough, and he doesn't do enough to justify adding this character. It's a weak plot point.
Yeah, it's a weak plot point, and it's like just the idea we need Santa to save this corporation. Doesn't feel very Christmassy at all. Like it's like,
Right.
yeah, well, give me that Santa that like is against like this consumerism stuff. Like I want that guy back instead of the one that's like, oh, I'm gonna work here instead of working for you. Why? I don't know. Okay.
He signed the contract, man. He signed the contract, and Santa is obligated.
But I like the original. I mean, obviously, it's a great commercials for Macy's and Gimbals back in the day. But I just like the idea that Santa like was sending people away to other department stores. So
Yeah.
other department stores started doing the same thing,
Mhm.
right? So they became less selfish for selfish reasons. So
Sure.
it's kind of good, but at the end of the day, they're doing it because they're going to make more money, but they're still doing something nice and not necessarily greedy, even though it's sort of greedy at the same time.
Right.
It's not clean for sure,
No,
but I
it's not.
like it better than what the remake did.
I did like it better. typically, if I watched a film like this that was based so heavily on something that sort of corporate, I would hate it. They thread the needle on this one. Like I liked it.
Yeah.
Again, maybe because I'm not the direct target audience. Like it's not 1947, and I don't feel like Macy's got one over on me because this movie exists. Um, and again, it feels strange to me. Like you mentioned, though it's not clean. It does feel like it's in the spirit
Yes,
of
at
Christmas.
least, right?
You
Instead
know,
of just saving one corporation, which is like, why would Santa even give a shit about that? It's like,
right.
Santa would sort of spread this sort of feeling of like just giving, like let's just all be good to each other. Like it's not about the money, like it's about like helping these people find the best deals and to just do that. I just so very commercial when I say it out loud, but he's trying to help people. There is a man who is trying to help people. Instead,
Right.
like the remake does this thing where it's like this man's sort of trying to save a corporation, but he's not really in it to save the corporation. But there is that subplot where we have to save this thing. So
This corporation's okay because my friends work for this one, but the other one, they're too big and good at what they do. So screw that. Like,
I damn them for taking advantage of this capitalism system that we have.
yeah.
But it's also funny in the original, just watching like Mr. Macy and Mr. Gimble kind of like try to like outdo good deeds to each other. It's like, well, I'll pay for this. Well, you didn't cover this portion of it, so I'll pay for that. No, I'm going to pay for that. So there's they have some fun with it in that original film.
And also, I mean, look, it's the Macy's Day Parade. Let's talk about that too.
Yeah,
like
there you go.
That's a very specific parade, and the fake Kohl's parade is not a thing. And, I don't know, like you can still go down there. That Macy's is still there in New York. Like there's history to it. There's yes, it's capitalism, but but I don't know. They just had a more convincing Santa tale, and like I didn't feel like the inclusion of this Shoppers Express storyline added anything, and in fact, it was a huge distraction that I didn't very much care for.
Yeah, and then you got Santa in the remake being on like Good Morning America, telling people to come to court. It's like what? This Santa wouldn't do that. Get out of here with that nonsense.
Yeah. Go get your eggnog, but make it. Yeah, but that's one plot point. I think we may be getting to the point where we talk about the differences in the endings.
Yeah, we can go there. So I'll start with the original. So it's like the trial's going on, and it's we're near the end of the movie, kind of when that trial happens anyway. So it's like we got some comedic beats. The prosecutor's son is on the stand. Hi, Daddy. Just ridiculous stuff, and some cute stuff. And then, like, well, you need proof. We need proof. Some government proof that this man is Santa Claus. There's like, oh shit. And then there's just the argument that Brian was a better lawyer because he wasn't like, oh shit, I got nothing. Like Gailey was just like, I don't know what to do, man. I think we're just gonna have to wait till tomorrow and to find out if we did enough to convince him. But what happens is Susie writes a nice letter to Santa, and she addresses it to the courtroom where the trial is happening. And not only does she write the this nice letter to Santa, but the mom also writes, I believe.
Yes.
The whole point of the movie was, is this man Santa? And two people who did not believe in Santa Claus said they believe in Santa Claus.
That's right.
That happened. That's a story that happened in that movie. It's pretty important. And this letter gets sent to the post office, sets off a series of events that all the letters to Santa are taken in to this courtroom. And like I said, The Simpsons, just mailbag after mailbag, and then everybody's laughing. These letters just start getting poured onto the judge's area. I don't know, the desk. I don't know what the hell the judge sits at. So they just poured there, and all these letters. So an official branch of the federal government is saying this man is Santa Claus because all these letters to Santa are going to him. So therefore, there's the proof that this man is Santa Claus.
Your Honor, Every one of these letters is addressed to Santa Claus. The post office has delivered them. Therefore, the Post Office Department, a branch of the federal government, recognizes this man, Kris Kringle, to be the one and only Santa Claus.
So, like I said, Simpsons did it, and it's just it's just an iconic moment of all these letters coming in for this guy. You know, they have no hope. They don't know what to do, but because Susie wrote this letter, it set off a series of events that led to this iconic moment of all these letters coming in and saving the day. It's kind of this Christmas miracle, if you will, happening in our Christmas movie. And it's a pretty solid way to kind of wrap up that hearing.
Yeah. And I'll say this, one of the major differences between these court hearings is sort of the judge's sort of, I guess, motivation. Let's put it this way.
Right.
The original film accurately expresses that if someone around Christmas time had a trial with a guy that thought he was Santa, and it made national media, that whoever was the one that said that Santa's not real is going to be an unpopular figure, regardless of our laws and things like that. And like Gailey, though he may not be the best lawyer, knows a little something about media and uses the press to his advantage. In fact, he even says it out loud. It's like, that's a great idea. I will use the press. And I mean, the judge in both films has this idea that, the re-election or election, whatever it is, it just doesn't it work. It's like, hey, your grandkids hate you now because you got Santa on trial. The lawyer's kid hates him, and everyone's just like, damn it, like, what do I do? Like, this guy's crazy, but but I want to be the guy to get Santa. And they give this nice, like you mentioned, iconic, beautiful little like button up thing, which is like, is it goofy? Sure, but yeah, the post office delivered mail to this guy, and it's a felony to deliver mail improperly, so yeah, he must be Santa.
Right.
And the judge was like, good enough for me, good enough for everybody. Like, you're the judge that saved Santa. It's like, yeah, I bet he is going to win that election. This remake, the judge is a greedy corporatist. They're like, hey, Mr. Lambert says, justice should prevail. And he's like, oh, Mr. Lambert, cool. Money does talk. The hand wringing. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, it just felt like so many steps were missing in this remake trial. Like you mentioned, Fred Gailey goes to Bellevue. He's trying to help Chris. He says, no matter what, my firm doesn't want me to do this, but I know it's right because I believe you're Santa, right? This guy doesn't believe in him at all. There's no real friction, right? Like, there's no law firm that's saying, don't defend this guy. He does like a mid-range, at best, defense of Kris Kringle. And then they like shoe in this ridiculous legal argument of, well, our money says in God we trust.
Upon inspection of the article, you will see the words, in God we trust. Now, we're not here to prove that God exists, but we are here to prove that a being just as invisible and yet just as present exists.
And I'm like, bro, why are you rewriting this? Like, why are you doing this to yourself? It makes zero sense. Because there's no reason why the judge isn't going to just take the money and run. It's not going to affect his re-election, really. I guess now everyone's interested in Santa, but it didn't feel like it. Like, that, again, was much more legible in that first film. Like, you're at home and your family's like, you suck. like, okay, I got why the judge now wants this to happen. Then he has this weird backdoor meeting with the defendant, I guess. And he's like, I wish I could help you, but I can't because of the law. And, it felt really, again, that word muddy, it just felt muddy and strange. Having Susie, who has not resembled a child at any point in this movie, now come down with this letter, and as you mentioned, not signed by her mother. So her mother does not believe in Santa. Her mother does not believe in Santa when she gets married. Her mother does not believe in Santa on the day of Christmas. Like, The only time her mother believes in Santa, I guess, is when she finds out she's pregnant, but she hasn't taken a pregnancy test. Um, all that to say that you know what's a lot more fun? Some random dude in the post office like, "Hey Mac, we got another letter to Santa. Another letter to Santa. Let's take those on down to the courthouse." And like again, I'm I don't get emotional when I watch corporate films like this, but it's like it tugs at your heartstrings when the doors open and these guys come in with their letters to Santa like that. Hey man, like that's a good ending. The way they get to the house at the end and it's so unexpected. We see Chris again. We get to see him in the aftermath of the trial and him feeling good about what's happened and more just good feeling happening in this movie.
And then Alfred's there too. He meets Mr. Macy. He's so ecstatic. He's like, "You introduced me to Mr. Macy. This is awesome."
Yeah, yeah. All these fun characters come back, and everyone gets this beautiful fairy tale ending, and it's all good. And we fire Sawyer. Good. Like, screw that guy. He's the bad guy. The bad guy in this movie is vaguely like, this is gonna come back to bite me. It's like, how? How you're gonna sell less stuff? There's a shotgun wedding, and there's this awful, like if the United States government believes in God and God's not real. Wait a minute.
Whoa.
I'm not here to say whether Santa's real or not. I'm just gonna. That's the trial. All right, guys. Movie done. I hate it. I hate the ending.
It's pretty bold comparing Santa to people's deities, saying like, yeah, Santa's right up there with God, right? So we believe in one. It's a reach. It's absolutely a reach. There's a lot of reasons I don't like it. I'm trying to figure out where to start. I'm going to start at the beginning. Okay, the trial in the remake happens with 40 minutes left to go.
Mm-hmm.
40 minutes left. We have this long ass trial. I have problems with it. A lot of problems with it. One problem I have is like right before the trial. I guess he puts like an ad. The lawyer puts an ad in like the newspapers telling people to believe. So like everybody's just like putting up like these signs in front of their house, like, "I believe in Santa. I believe in Santa. I believe in Santa." Like everybody in the whole fucking world believes this guy's Santa. We still got 40 minutes in the film to go.
Right.
I feel like at that point we could have had a 5-minute trial. Yep. Wrapped up the relationships with everybody else. It could have been 10 minutes, done.
Yep.
But we have 4 minutes to go. I am not going to let this go. We have 40 more minutes in this fucking movie to go over this trial. What kid is going to like this? Who, like you said, who is this for? Who is this trial for? Because it's not for kids. It's, yeah, sure, there's jokes here and there, but it's a bunch of adults talking litigation and all this Lego mumbo jumbo stuff. And it's like, there's some kids in there sometimes, and it's like even some of the kids get replaced by adults in the witness stand. It's like, instead of the kid's kid, it's, instead of the prosecutor's kid, it's the prosecutor's wife now. And it's like, okay, I guess we can do that. And it's like I said, after she said no to the proposal, we don't see Susie. We just totally lost track of her. But we stuck with her in the original film, and she is the reason that Kris Kringle gets saved. She is the reason. The kid saves Santa. For a Christmas movie, kids love that. The kid saves Santa. In the remake, Dylan McDermott's just like, "Oh, look at this dollar bill. Let me use this. I'm the one who saved Christmas. Me, the man." It's like, have the little kid save Christmas, man. What are you doing giving him all the fucking credit?
It doesn't make any sense. Like, Dylan McDermott being like, "I know what this is about. This is about money." It's like, no, it's about your flimsy-ass legal defense. like you suck. Then he looks at the dollar. I solved it. You're right. The kid, bro. Kids. It's a funnier joke, like the subpoena, the wife sitting in the stands, not the witness stand, but in like the bench, just being like, "I'm sorry, the kid's got to speak. I got a subpoena." That's hilarious. It makes the impact of him having to sit on the phone book funnier. Like they do the same beat, but like the kid is far less consequential. Like,
Who was the kid? He's just the
I don't
random
even
kid. He
remember.
was in the movie earlier. He was one of the kids that sat in
He was
Santa's
the
lap.
judge's. He was the judge's grandkid.
No, I don't think it was. I think it was a different kid.
Oh yeah. Oh
I
yeah.
think so.
I don't know.
I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was just a random kid that just sat on Santa's lap earlier in the performance.
Probably. I mean, because of the way that I give this film no credit. So yeah. But like, why? You know, like, why did they do this? Why why did they make these choices? Because I don't get it. Like, why is this a better defense than the letters?
I think honestly, it's just we have to have our own signature ending. We can't just do what they did.
That's crazy.
The original. We can't just do it worked.
That's
okay. That's the
nuts.
only reason. It's just hubris. We have to do something different. I can't think of why you would change it, because it's a solid ending. It's a solid defense.
It's a worse legal defense in the remake.
Yeah.
It's a worse legal defense. I mean, it. You know, if I was the lawyer prosecuting this, and this is the problem, we're talking about the legality versus the fun.
Right.
And it's like, I would have been like, first of all, what does the existence of God have to do with this man believing that he's Santa Claus? Like, if I came here and said I believe that I'm God, and I would assume that you would send me to Bellevue. Like, that should have been like a counter rebuttal. This trial's not over. You know, it didn't make sense. Like, the original film was asking you, look, I want to believe you. I want to believe that this is Santa. There's no proof. And he's like, you got to give me proof from, like you mentioned, a government entity. Post office is the government. Hey, we're the Southern District Court of New York. I'm not fighting the federal government. So if it's good enough for them, it's good enough for me. And the guy everybody gets to be a winner. The only person that's a loser is the one clear villain in the movie, which is Dr. Sawyer, who did something shitty and got his comeuppance because he got fired. Mm-hmm. And we just let that guy disappear. But like, the judge wasn't evil. He was just a guy that was like, all right, I guess I'm the judge on this case. And look, sure, he had his own self-interest. You know, you got the guy in the back with the cigar chomping on and being like, we're going to go all the way to Washington with this one. But like, at least it was clean, right? It was a clean, fun ending. Like, I've never seen the movie before. I was actually pretty surprised by that. I was like, that's actually kind of, didn't see that coming. I thought that was cool. Like, I know you had a reference point for it before, but I was like, all right, that wasn't expecting that. Pleasantly surprised by the movie. Remake, it's like, all right, I do now have a framework of where this could go. And what you presented to me was so much worse. So, like, Susie walks down the aisle with a Christmas card, bribes the judge in open court, and he's like, I'm going to hand her the $1 back. But
they throw that line in, of course.
So stupid. Just be a Christmas movie, please.
Yeah. You took away the hero moment that Susie had in the original film.
Yep. That
it was her letter that set everything in motion, and no, she's just handing the letter in the remake. It's so much weaker.
So much.
As a kid, you don't have a hero moment. She has a hero moment in that original film. Yeah. What are you, the postman? What is this? Fucking that Kevin Costner movie?
Yeah.
There's no heroes just delivering, going from one to the other. She was a hero in that first original film, and now she's just, well, I guess the lawyer told me to give this to you. I don't really know what the point of it is.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
And again, for a Christmas movie, like, that movie, the original, does seem to be marketed towards kids. It's like, sure, it's marketed towards his parents, so you're going to have to sit through all this Macy's talk. But at the end, okay, Susie's letter gets to Santa. And you know who else's letter gets to Santa? All the other little kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Santa gets my letters. That's really cool. Santa is real, and he gets my letters. I will continue to write letters to Santa. I will continue to believe in the mythology and the lore of Saint Nick. Mm-hmm. Pretty cool integration of this Christmas tradition into your weirdly, like, Mr. Smith goes to Washington.
Yeah. Mr. Kringle goes to Washington.
Yeah. Mr. Kringle goes to the Supreme Court of New York. Like, it's funny. Like, taking those concepts of like Christmas and the court and blending them together in this way was like
Yeah.
fun, and it's still fun 60 something years later. It it works.
Yeah, I got nothing to add to that. But I guess I'll just go after the trial. So, like you
Sure.
said, in the original, they go to where Kris Kringle lives. They have a little celebration, and then he gives them directions to get home because they're not familiar with the area. And then on the drive home, Susie's like, "Stop, stop! It's the house!" And then she just runs right into this house that's for sale, and just like it's fully furnished, or is it fully furnished?
Nah, that one's not.
Okay, I'm now mixing up the films. So yeah, but it's like has like all this stuff in it, and she just loves it. She goes in the yard, and then the two of them are like, I guess, well, we could buy it, I guess. Why not? And then they see the cane in the corner, and then they give each other the, what? Did he do this?
I'm sorry, but I love the fact they're like, well, we can't disappoint her on Christmas. I guess we got to enter into a relationship and buy this house. It's like, well, naturally, it's Christmas.
Well, so it's a little bit of a reach, but you know, it was so strong in the courtroom. You just let's keep the good feelings going.
Yeah.
Let's give her Christmas present. Okay, I'll go for it.
And besides that though, like as much as I'm saying it's a reach, actually not, because ultimately it's the result that they want.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens to be on this sort of Christmas timeline.
Right, exactly. Because she never rejected him. He never like made it weird by proposing way too early. Unlike the remake, where after the trial, the mom and the lawyer, they get a letter saying, meet me here after the midnight mass, and then they both go to church, and they're like, did you do this? No, you did this. And then all of a sudden it's like, we're here for a wedding. And instead of doing the adult thing, going, this is weird, I'm not going to go through with a wedding, they decide to get married, even though she clearly rejected him just a couple weeks, maybe a couple days earlier. I don't exactly know the timeline of from the rejection to the trial, but not much time has passed, because remember, we started Thanksgiving and now we're at Christmas. So she just changes her mind for no particular reason. Never said she believed in Santa or anything, and I guess he did his job, so that's good. He's good at his job, so maybe that's why she wanted to marry him. It's just like, again, muddy. I didn't buy that. I couldn't buy in because she had already rejected him, and there was nothing. He didn't really do anything for their relationship to make her change her mind. Sure, he saved Kris Kringle and maybe Christmas or whatever, but we're talking about two people spending the rest of their lives together, and one of them said no. What did you do to fix that? What did you do to change that? Nothing. I mean, it's a Christmas miracle, I guess.
And just like, again, the way they paced and shot the movie and stuff like that. One, like you mentioned, we have 40 minutes for this trial. We got 2 minutes to resolve the arc. They kind of just throw away Kris. Like they're just like, well, we're done with Santa because we did all that stupid stuff you guys wanted us to do because it's a Miracle on 34th Street remake. It's like, was Santa important to this plot at all? Because like they just move forward really. Like this movie is ultimately about these two's relationship, as you mentioned, and not about the relationship of Santa and all of the children of the world. So it fails in that side of a Christmas movie. And to your point, like I just don't, I don't know, like the pace is all wrong, and there is no resolution, as you mentioned, for that scene. There's not really a lot that they could have done for me at this point in the movie to redeem Mrs. Walker. And that's a shame because like it really shouldn't have been such of a brutal letdown at the proposal. I think if they had handled that scene in a different way, it was like, hey, look, I appreciate the sentiment, but I got my own things I got to work through. That would have been okay, but they made her just like, they made her like,
she flat out rejected him. Like, I don't want anything to do with you, pretty much.
It's like the idea that you think that I would want to marry you is preposterous, and you're a fool for thinking that way. Pretty definitive,
right?
That's that's kind of the end of the conversation, isn't it? But no, it's not, because, like you mentioned, wait a minute, where does priest come from? That has to be you. And you knew I was Roman Catholic, clearly. like, like the whole thing was ridiculous.
Yeah. And the movie doesn't end there, though.
No,
We
doesn't.
still got more movie because we still have Christmas morning.
Oh, that's right.
So we're doing presents Christmas morning, and then Susie's opening up her present, and then she's like, I need to tell you something. What? And then there's like a light just coming out of nowhere, and then what is it from? It's from her new shiny rock.
Yep.
She has the engagement ring on. I guess that's also her wedding ring. And then she also sees Brian come out of the bedroom too, wearing his robe.
With
Like,
the
I just
robe?
fucked your mother.
Yeah, I know, bro. It was crazy.
And it's not over yet because Mrs. Walker has to do some photos for her job. Okay, so I gotta drive here on Christmas Day for my job. I'm not gonna question it. I'm not gonna put up a fight. I'm not gonna celebrate Christmas with my family. Instead, I'm gonna go and do my job on Christmas, and because that's what happened in the remake or in the original. We just drove, and it's the house, and they got Christmas bonuses, and this house is yours, but it's not yours. You can afford it, right? Because you got a Christmas bonus, right? That's right. You got the Christmas bonus. Now you can afford this house. I think I'm giving you this house, but not really. You still have to pay for it. Here you go. Merry Christmas. You're pregnant, Mom. Bye.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and we all got our bonuses. Thanks, Chris. I mean, I wasn't expecting to get a bonus this year. Like, crazy. Crazy.
Like you said, pacing. We have a very bad, poor pacing with the latter half of this movie. We have like a 35-minute trial. Yep. Everything summed up in like 5 minutes. Like everything just crammed into the last 5 minutes. It is too much.
You can sit. We've seen Christmas movies. You can sit in that Christmas feeling for 20 minutes if you want. You could go across town dropping presents off to every kid in the neighborhood, and people will accept that because you got us in the Christmas spirit. This movie's like, I'm more focused on the legal question of could there be a Santa than I am about the characters that I've presented in their resolution. That's a crazy bold statement to make in a film, and they're making it because of their pacing choice. And why is this film so damn long?
You know me, Reggie. If a film's longer, it better be damn interesting. And what they added, and you made the trial longer. You focused on the love story a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Did you give me more Christmas?
No. You removed, like, if you go look at Miracle on 34th Street DVD cover or whatever, thumbnail on Netflix or wherever this thing's streaming, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see a guy that looks like Santa, and you'll probably see a little girl that's interacting with that Santa. Mm-hmm. That is the movie.
That's the poster for the remake. It's just Santa, the girl, and like Christmas tree. I think that's it.
Yeah. That makes sense. And you know why? Because that is the story. It's the story of a mother who's had a rough go at life, that has lost her faith in everything, right? She's lost her faith in men. She's lost her faith in society, and she's lost her faith in fun. And this guy, this sort of odd character, comes into her life, proposing to be something that she knows to not be real. Turns out he's the real deal, and not only is he the real deal, he's made everyone believe. And that moment where she writes on that letter, mm-hmm. P.S. I believe, that is the story. Susie is a surrogate for Mrs. Walker. Santa is a surrogate for her faith. And it has come back together in this neat Christmas package. It's a very simple, beautiful story that happens to have some corporate interest in it. But, you can't pay for the type of Christmas joy that this movie and Macy's brought you. I don't get it. Like, where do they not know what this was about? Because it seems they don't know what it's about. I think they thought that we wanted Dylan McDermott to bang that chick, which I did, but it was a subplot.
It's just a 20-minute deleted scene somewhere.
Oh, I bet it's like Team America. Well, this isn't very Christmassy. All right. My bad.
It's okay.
You want to talk about the music?
Hey, let's talk about the music. I just wanted to talk about the music a little bit because, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 47 film, does it have Christmas music in it?
I don't recall
I don't think it
listening
does.
to Christmas music. No.
I mean, and I started to think about it. It's like, wait, when were Christmas songs written? Like, was this made before Christmas songs?
Well, they did have the Santa Claus.
They had that weird Santa Claus song. So, but there were Christmas songs like Santa Claus is Coming to Town was made in like 1934. But I actually did some research and like the top 25 Christmas songs, like only 10 of them came out before this movie was made. Maybe 9 because maybe it was made in 1946. So like a lot of Christmas music might have come out after this Christmas movie, which kind of blows my mind. It's like you think of Christmas music like just something that's like always been there. Like Jesus was born and then somebody was just singing Jingle Bells right there, like right next to him. So it's like it's interesting that there's not really a lot of Christmas music in like a Christmas film. Yeah. Which today, by today's standards, like you look at Home Alone, it's just like so much Christmas music. Even like Die Hard, it's just so much Christmas music. And then the remake does have a lot of Christmas music.
Yep.
I don't know if there were any new Christmas songs written for it. If there were, I didn't really remember any of them. But I just thought that was an interesting point that there's not really a lot of Christmas music in this sort of Christmas classic, as it were.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that it's hard to imagine like those times, right? Like when you think about this film, which I don't think you could make this movie again, especially, I mean, clearly they didn't in 94 with this whole like, once we get the smell of like, this is a Macy's movie, that starts to kind of, turn people off. I think that corporate hook wasn't quite as pronounced, maybe that's why we're not seeing it. I don't know. I have no real frame of reference for it, but I can't imagine it being mid-November and not hear Christmas music at a store or on the radio at this point. So yeah, I don't know. Like it does seem to be missing, but maybe it wasn't that important at the time. I guess probably less ways to even interact with that. Like, could you imagine there's like 5 radio channels and one of them's just all Christmas stuff for a month? I think people would kind of be mad about that.
And I didn't really notice it until I saw the remake. So it's not like it just doesn't feel like Christmas because I'm not hearing any Christmas songs. It was an interesting thing, and I never really thought about like the origin of like Christmas songs and like when did we start doing Christmas songs like so heavily into like rotation and all that stuff.
It's a great question. I obviously I don't have an answer for it either, but no, you make a good point, and I think again because we talked about pacing, the movie actually moved at a pretty brisk pace, all things considered, and I didn't really stop to think about it so just now actually.
Yeah, I mean it was pretty good pacing wise. I remember last time we did the Casino Royale movies, and when you made me watch that original, I was checking the clock like every 10 minutes for that piece of shit. This one, not so much. The original, no. The remake, yes.
Yeah.
Especially when we got to that trial, I was like,
I was gonna say once I got to the trial, I was
shit.
like,
yeah. But I'm gonna save my reservation for that. I think it's time for the verdicts.
Sure.
All right. So here we are. Reggie, should the remake of Miracle on 34th Street exist?
Again, just like we did with Casino Royale, I'm gonna sort of backtrack by talking about the original a little bit. It is a film that is well paced, that is a very straightforward story. You're really talking about what? Well, there's more, but like there's 5 actors right throughout the film that kind of matter. They rightfully acknowledge that Susie is one of those actors they should focus on, and the characters that are side characters, they feel like side characters. This remake makes choices that don't elevate the story and it complicates the story in some ways. And I feel like when they did that, they miss the point, right? it doesn't matter that Shoppers Express wants to buy out Kohl's. It doesn't matter that you know, Fred Daly, the proposal. Like that doesn't really matter. It's an unfortunate thing that happens in a movie, but it's a distraction. They really should have keyed in on who is this Chris Kringle character? What's his deal? Because we spend a lot more time with that in the original. We look at his employee card and like the way he's described himself. It's very sort of what's the word? There's like this myth and lore to it, right? Like he's doing things like Santa would do in the real world. It's kind of novel and absurd, but because he's so charming, charismatic, believable, um, people that otherwise wouldn't start to believe him. Mr. Macy's like, okay, yeah, Santa, whatever. Um, Different doctors at the old folks home, they believe him. It's just I don't get that in this remake. I don't think that anyone really believes him. Um, Maybe the kid, but the kid's not in the movie enough. So I don't know how they took this really easy story and fucked it up, for lack of a better word, but they did. And I think there's a reason why I've never seen this movie before. I've seen a lot of Christmas garbage. Um, Jingle All the Way is one of my favorite movies. I
Oh,
watch it every
that is
year.
not garbage. That is
No,
a
I know.
classic.
Exactly, I
Put
agree.
the cookie down. I'm sorry, I just had to get that out there.
I, I love it. Turbo Man. But like, I am, we talked about it before, is like my Grinchy ways. I'm not really the big Christmas movie guy, but like every year I do the dance just like everybody else. If Charlie Brown's going to sit in front of that tree, I'm going to watch it. If that Grinch is going to steal Christmas, I'm going to watch it in cartoon and live action. I'm the one dumb enough to watch the Pac-Man Christmas movie. I watched this and it did nothing for me. It didn't make me feel like I was doing anything Christmassy. It was just like this is not a Christmas movie. So yeah, it's not good. This remake should not exist because they anyone could have pulled this off and they didn't. It's crazy. That's it.
You know me, Reggie. What did you bring? What did you bring to the table to merit this movie needing to be made? So I thought of all the new stuff that we got. What did we get? We got the Shoppers Express, which was kind of went nowhere. We got the extended love story that really didn't matter. We got some Christmas music. It's in color. Uh, those things are true about the film, but yeah, ultimately it does kind of lose just like the message. Like, what's the story we're trying to tell here? And like for me, I completely dropped off when we got to the trial because it just felt like a completely different film at that point. I'm thinking about kids watching this. What
Yeah.
kid is gonna sit there and watch this trial and this remake and go, yeah, this is a Christmas movie. This is a great Christmas movie. Kids are gonna be bored out of their minds during that trial. Even with like fun things like a reindeer or a kid who's like he's too grumpy looking to be Santa. Even that stuff. It's just we want to see Santa. We want to see him interacting with kids. That's what we want to see. And if I'm bored, I can't imagine what a kid with like no attention span is going to be doing when that
Seriously.
scene, when that whole trial is happening. It's just, it was too long. It was just, why did we make this movie longer? I'm still just like scratching my head about it, but it wasn't good. what they added wasn't good. I will give this the remake though. I thought that scene with the deaf kid was goddamn adorable and charming, and I love that scene. And if you made more of that in this remake, yeah, that movie should absolutely exist. But you didn't. You focused on this love story. You focused on this trial. You focused on this evil corporation, and I didn't buy into any of that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty easy. This remake should not exist.
Yeah, they basically just took like what are things that should happen in a '90s film and then just like shuffle it up with the Miracle on 34th Street story, and it didn't translate very well.
No, John Hughes, man, he got his he ruined 101 Dalmatians for me. He ruined Miracle on 34th Street for me.
Yeah.
Anything that he touches in the 90s, I feel like I'm gonna have very negative emotions towards.
Sure. I'll say this, like, in the spirit of this, like, here's a movie that I'm not saying go watch this, but Christmas Chronicles, right? It's a Netflix movie that came out that, I watched because cultural phenomena, things happen, right? It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. It's like a classic Santa, gets stuck in some town. He's got to like team up with some kids to get his sleigh going so he can deliver the presents, right? It's classic, silly Santa story, but it just hits those notes. It focuses on the kids. It does have jokes for adults. It has sort of what you're expecting from a movie with kids. Uh, like that to me, which isn't even a movie I really like that much, but like it's a Christmas movie and it hits those notes that you expect. It's a very particular type of camp that a Christmas movie is, and this movie does not hit those notes. So just wanted to kind of point to an example of a film kind of like this that nails the tone, even though it's not even that great of a movie. Like that's not really the point of a Christmas movie, is it?
Yeah,
So,
I definitely didn't get the Christmas feeling, especially once we hit that trial. I mean, like I said, it could have ended the remake. It could have ended just when everybody was holding up the signs like "I believe, I believe."
Yeah.
It's like, everybody in the world believes he's Santa. I don't. It doesn't really matter what this court thinks at this point because the whole world believes that this guy is Santa, and to have 40 more minutes of movie just dragged out. Oh man, what a chore! I was checking the clock like every 2 minutes after that trial. I was so bored.
Yeah, but you're right. Like basically up to the point that you described, like the sign language part, which was a nice translation of that scene.
Yeah.
They still had a handle on the movie at that point, and after that, it just kind of descends. It just doesn't really make sense. That, like maybe there should have been an Alfred type character. Maybe there should have been. It's dubious, but maybe there should have been a psychologist. I mean, like I'm looking at all these things that worked in the original, and I imagine they would have worked in this remake, and they're just not there. It's weird.
Or you could just have somebody who worked at the department store, just like I don't know, jealous. Of
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You don't need all this extra stuff that we added. We don't care about the Tooth Fairy. What are you doing? What are you doing, remake?
Yeah. Well, that's a remake for you. Sometimes. Sometimes we found some good ones, but this is not. Yeah,
it. This is definitely not one of them. All right. Well, what are we doing next, Reggie? All right. So I don't know. I'm just looking at this list here, and one that kind of sticks out to me is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
Okay.
And then they got the remake Guess Who? I think that's what it's called.
That's the one with
Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey, that works for me. It's that takes place around the holidays, right?
And look at this. The majority of the remake was filmed in New Jersey, Cranford, New Jersey.
Oh.
Yeah, look at that.
Nice.
Nice.
A lot of filming in New Jersey these days.
All right, so we'll do Guess Who's Coming to Dinner versus Guess Who for next time. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everybody. Let us know what you thought in the comments below. Did you agree with us? Did you disagree with us? Do you know the difference between a trial and a hearing? Let us know all these important facts, or let us know down below. If you're not following us, feel free to subscribe, give us a like, give us a 5-star on iTunes, whatever you can do to help us grow. You could also follow us on all the social medias at Retro versus Remake.
And I'm Reggie Parker at RP Comedy on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Dan Bulick. You can follow me at Console Wars guys. You know who I am if you're watching this probably.
Exactly.
All right. Thanks for watching another episode of Retro versus Remake.